welcome to another episode on the Virtual Shelling Network. We are here at the east end of Sanibel Island in the evening, so you can see the sun is going to be setting there to the west, and down here you will see a glimpse of Lighthouse Point down there at the end, and we are, oh, you can see it. Can you guys see the light coming on? And we are going to be checking out the beach here. I'm super excited. I see lots of good stuff that we're going to be able to look through. So let's get our shell on. So you guys can see how high the tide came. We've had some recent storms come through, and you can see up here is a bunch of kind of junk from a rack line, and you can see how the high tide came right up through here. And here is a bunch of stuff. We've got some sea urchins, aka stink bombs, I like to call them. We've got a little operculum here, which I love operculums. It looks like we've got a nice little, or I should say big, slipper shell or Indian boat here. Oh, there's two of them together. I was gonna say it seems pretty big. So we've got one on the bottom, which is empty, and then we've got one hanging onto it here on the top, which has a critter in it. So unfortunately, a lot of these sea creatures that are washed up are no longer alive, but they are still very stinky. So you have to make sure when you are taking things from the beach, you can take them if they are not alive anymore, but I do not recommend taking them if they are not empty, because all of these really pretty little scallops here still have the critter in there, so that is not good. You're gonna start to see some ants and bugs over the next few days to weeks. All of this stuff will eventually get cleaned out by nature, by birds, by bugs, and it'll be a lot better to be able to collect this stuff. So a couple things, let me just point out. I know that a lot of you guys already know what sea urchins are, but I get a lot of new viewers on the Virtual Shelling Network, and I just like to educate when I can, because sometimes people have no idea what a sea urchin is. So this is what a sea urchin looks like. They are a creature with spines like this. Down here in Florida, it's very common that they are purple in color. And you will see at the bottom, they have a little mouth here. And if you're ever wondering if one is alive or not, you can look really close at their spines to see if they're moving. Or you can kind of poke their mouth and you'll see their mouth open and close, but this one is no longer alive. So unfortunately, this little guy is deceased. So you can take him home, but this part in here would have to come out. And as the urchin dries out and dries off, the spines will start to come off. So these will start to flake off pretty easily. You guys can see they're kind of coming off here. And then you're left with the sea urchin shell that's pretty smooth. This one is kind of a white sea urchin, like a white spined sea urchin. So they look similar on the shell, but the spines are just white. And then right here, we're lucky enough to have a long spined urchin. So you can see these very long spines on this one, and there's his little mouth there, and their shell looks a little bit different. They have a larger kind of dots on the shell once it's cleaned up. So I'm gonna put two together for you that are about the same size, so you guys can see the difference in the spines of these two sea urchins. Pretty cool. And I love finding cool pieces of driftwood. We don't get a lot of driftwood here on Sanibel, but after storms is when we tend to find some really cool pieces. So this one's all sandy, but I think that that's really cool. We use driftwood for our fish tanks, so if you guys have fish tanks, it's really great as a decor item in there. Oh my gosh, look. Sorry, I got distracted. Look. We have a mermaid purse. You guys know I love mermaid purses. So you guys can see how this one's attached. So they have these little kind of stringy looking things on the end. And that is what the egg case attaches to something in the water, whether it's a seashell or a piece of coral or whatever, but it attaches itself to something in the water deep, and that's what holds it down. So unfortunately in storms, sometimes these break away. This is an egg casing to a shark or a skate, and it is empty. There's nothing in here, and it is all dried out, so they'll be kind of dark and leathery looking when you first find them, and then once they dry out, they harden up and they will kind of shrink down a little bit. But these are called mermaid purses. I just love finding them. They're such a fun beach treasure. And then here's a really pretty yellow sea whip here. And I will tell you too, with sea whips, so if you guys can see, like, this is a yellow one. Sometimes they're purple colored. Once these get really dry, that color, if you guys can see here, comes off. So it'll start to all come off if you don't preserve it, if you don't spray it with acrylic or dip it in Mod Podge or cover it in something to seal it. All of this color will eventually strip off, and then you'll be just left with the bare. So here's a good example of what it looks like. So there you can see the color. I'm trying to zoom in and focus at the same time. Okay, so there you guys can see the color, and then here, up here, you'll see that it doesn't have any color left on it. But that's a really cool find. You guys know I love sea whips. Here is another sea whip right here. It doesn't have a base to it, but it's still super pretty. And I just love finding them. I just think they're so cool. And again, you know, I love finding things we don't find very often here. Look at this big piece of driftwood. Holy cow. So this is a great educational piece here, because you guys can see all of the little holes in the driftwood are made by clams. They're made by boring clams. Here is a piece of one right here. Here's another little one over here. So it's kind of cool that, you know, creatures actually eat through this wood. There's another one you can see right here. And it's just pretty neat. I think that's just so cool to see all that. That's a nice piece of driftwood. If it's still here when I come back, I might grab it and take it home. And here's another little sea whip. So this is another good example of one that's dried out. Let me get some of this seaweed off. You guys can see this one was purple. Can you guys see the purple color on it here, right here, and right here? And then the purple color came off, so you're just left with the dark kind of sea whip color, which is fine. It's still fun, but I just like you guys to know that that purple, unless you preserve it, may not stay on there forever and ever. All right, so this is towards the lighthouse, and you guys can see there's so much stuff to look through. Look at all this stuff. Oh my gosh. And then on the other side, we've got even more stuff. So I'm gonna start this way because I love a bunch of beach trash, a bunch of ocean garbage. Ooh, here's a pretty orange scallop right here. This is another reason why I love my shell bags, because I can throw sandy items in my bag and then give it a good rinse before I leave, and I don't lose any of my shells, but I'm still able to get all the sand out before I get home and clean shells. Oh, here's a really fun piece of driftwood right here. Nice little smooth piece. So again, a lot of this stuff is no longer alive, but still occupied. It still has critters in it. Here is some slipper shells or Indian boats, well, it's attached to something under there. What's it attached to? Something under here. Oh, it's attached to an arc shell. Let's see. Okay, so you guys can see, and even though it's no longer alive, there's still critters in there. Here's a piece of a crab claw. And this, I want to show you guys the lantern, which is inside a sea urchin. So let me find a sea urchin to show you guys. This one's better. So this is the mouth right here. And so that is the same. You see the little mouth. But on the inside, if you took the shell off, this is what would be on the inside. This is kind of like the inside skeleton mouthpiece of the sea urchin, which is kind of cool. There's another one here. So you guys can kind of see what that looks like from the inside. And here's another sea urchin that doesn't have any spines on it, but it still does have, oh, it's got a couple of spines on the bottom. It still has the critter in there. But this is what they look like when they're all cleaned up. So they are really pretty. They do bleach very easily. So this one has been sitting in the sun. You can already see it's a lot lighter. If you put these in bleach, I do not unless I want to bleach them out. But if you put them in bleach, they will turn almost white, like a very, very light pink, which is pretty, but you're not gonna have the same natural coloring. Come over here so you guys can see the difference in one that's not bleached out versus the one that is bleached out. So they bleach very easily. And I absolutely loathe cleaning sea urchins. Like, I hate it. So I always try to find them when they're already cleaned out. But for some of you receiving sea urchins in your beach treasure boxes, I clean them all out because I couldn't find enough that were not already cleaned out for me. Here's a little blue crab here, a little baby blue crab. Sadly, he didn't make it. And they've got the cute little blue and red claws. So same thing, like if you wanted to take this crab, it's gonna be stinky because it's like dead body, right? You're gonna have to clean this guy out, or you're gonna have to like send it to a friend who's like a taxidermist that can, you know, do whatever they do to preserve the crab for you, because all that meat inside is tissue and it's just gonna rot and be gross. Here's a little starfish. You can lots of little starfish, unfortunately. Here's one, here's another one. So just as a quick tip, when you find a starfish, number one, please make sure it is no longer alive. If it is alive, or if there's any question that it might be, please make sure that you are taking a photo and putting it back, because we try to help wildlife survive as much as we can. But if you know that it is no longer alive, the legs aren't moving, it's been dried out. This one is not completely dried out because it's been sitting in all of this wet stuff, but you need to lay it the way you want it to dry. So if you want the legs to be curled or moved around, you would have to set it that way. Otherwise, when it dries, it's gonna be very, very stiff and you won't be able to manipulate the legs without breaking them off. So here's an example of a long-spined starfish, a long-spined sea urchin. So I'm gonna get some of the spines off. This is another way you know that they're no longer alive, is the spines literally just come right off. And then I'm gonna compare it for you guys to a regular spined sea urchin. Let's see. Can you guys tell it's been a long day today? I can't think straight. Okay, so here's the difference so you guys can see. So this one actually is all cleaned out. So that's the way that they're gonna look when they're totally cleaned out. They're not gonna have any spines on them, and they're gonna be completely empty inside, and they won't be stinky because there's nothing in there anymore. This one still has the critter in there, so you would want to take that out before you take it home. Oh my gosh, look at all of this ocean trash, beach garbage. I love this stuff though. This is my favorite stuff to look through. So here's an example of a scallop that's intact, that doesn't have anything in it. Okay, it's all cleaned out, it's all empty. Typically, not always, but typically with scallops, one side is going to be the pretty side and the colorful side or the dark side, and then the other side is going to be the white or the very light side. So very rarely do you find them where they're a perfect match. They're usually one side is very light, one side is going to be your colorful dark side. Let's see. Oh, this is an example of just one of the sides. Here's another one here. So this one is the more colorful side, and then on the flip side it's white. Now I will tell you, I know that all of these critters, they've been out here a while, so they're no longer alive. But when you pick up a scallop, if it has its mouth open, please do not stick your finger in there, because you're not gonna get it off your finger. It's gonna really, really freaking hurt, and you're gonna regret it. So make sure that when you pick them up like this, and if they clamp down, you'll know that they're alive. But don't pick them up like this to where you're putting your finger close there, because if they're alive, they will chomp down, and it is not fun. And I know that because that's happened to me. It's only happened to me once, but once was all it took. Holy cow, look at all of the scallops. Holy moly. I don't think I've ever seen so many scallops in one place in my life. Look at all the scallops. Holy cow. So again, unfortunately guys, like if you came down on the beach right now, I would tell you don't take them because they're gross and stinky. And I know, because I mean I've found scallops before that were super pretty. Like here's a pretty orange one right here. So you can see the darker side, and then over here is going to be the lighter side, but they're still both really pretty, right? But it's got animal in there, and it's going to stink and be really gross. So this is going to be great scallop shelling over the next few weeks here, if you're patient and you let Mother Nature do its job and have all the bugs. I don't know if you guys can see some of the flies and stuff that are flying around, and the ants. But another thing too is I always recommend wearing some type of beach shoes to the beach always, but especially when you're going through stuff like this, because there's fish bones and there's sharp shells and there's bacteria and there's all kinds of yucky stuff, and you want to make sure you're protecting your feet, and that you're not putting yourself in the position to get injured or an infection. I just can't even believe all these scallops right now. Like I can't even tell you guys. I mean, I'm like speechless. There's so many scallops here. And here's a little button shell here. There we go. It's kind of funny how stuff washes up. Like we've got all of the like kind of seaweedy stuff here, and then we've got a whole mess of scallops here. And then we start getting into like the seaweed piles of this pretty seaweed. This pretty seaweed is not going to stay this color. So if you want to take it home, I wouldn't. It's going to shrivel up and it's going to turn brown. So I know it looks really pretty right now, but unfortunately a lot of sea creatures, once they dry out, they'll lose their color. And sponges are like that, and seaweed is like that too. Here's another little starfish. Poor little starfish. Oh my gosh. Look at all of the scallops. That is crazy. Oh, look, I see a really pretty sea whip. Do you see it? Right here. Hiding. So I want to be careful and try to find, this is the end. Let's find the beginning. All right, it's tangled up in all of this stuff. Here is the beginning of it. There we go. Come on. Almost. There we go. Got it. Look how pretty. So this is a good example of a purple one. Get it in the whole frame for you guys to see. So pretty, right? But you can see up here, some of the purple has already started to come off a little bit. Like right here, there isn't any left, but look how gorgeous that sea whip is. Like I said, we don't find sea whips super often, but when we do, I get so excited because I love them. So I'm gonna give you guys another tip too. When you come to shell, if you have in your brain what you're looking for, it's a lot easier to find it. Right now, here's another mermaid purse filled with some sand. You can see this one definitely hatched, it looks like. But I mean, I'm the type of person that sometimes I come to the beach and I just look for like one specific thing. Here's a crab shell. Like right now, I'm just kind of looking in general because I want to find some fun things to show you guys. So here is a flame box crab. Okay, usually the shells are a little bit more vibrant than that, but he could be a little bit bleached out. But you can see he's still got the critter attached to the shell. So you would want to clean that out. I can't tell you how to do it, but if you find somebody like my husband from Maryland, oh, I just shook it a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so that's a little bit better. You got to get all that junk out. So he's still got a little bit of stuff here. Let's see if we can get that out. Okay. If you find somebody who eats crabs, they can help you or teach you how to clean it out. But that is a flame box crab shell. So now the shell's empty and it's totally fine. You can rinse it out and it'll be a nice little addition to your beach treasure collection. And oh, look, here's a shark eye too. Do you see it right here? A little shark eye. So what I was saying is, if you're coming out to shell and you're trying to find shells, it's fine. But if you're coming out to look for something specific, for example, sea whips or mermaid purses or sea pearls or another beach treasure, crab claws, you want to make sure you have that on the brain, because when I come out looking for something specific, it's a lot easier for me to zero in and find it than it is when I'm kind of doing this and I'm just looking all over, looking at all the things. So here's another little sea whip up here, and this is another great example of how they're not always all purple. Just get this seaweed off of here. All right. Okay, so this one has the purple still left here and all the way up, but the rest of it is the purple came off. So that's just an example of how sometimes they'll look. But sea whips, I mean, even if you find them just in this stage, it's still a sea whip. It's not that it's not a sea whip. It's just lost its, you know, the color that was the living part before. Here's another sea whip. You guys see it right here? The purple always catches my eye. Oh, that's a pretty one. How pretty. That's a pretty one. Gorgeous. And sometimes too, guys, like this little piece here is kind of hanging off, like right here too. See how it's broke? So sometimes I just pull it off just because I know it's gonna break off. And sometimes I'll leave them if they're broken, but I think that they're hanging on, I'll leave them on there. So if you ever purchase a sea whip or you get one in your beach treasure box and one of the little pieces is bent or broken, that's not uncommon that they're just found that way. You can always glue it, or you can just take it off, whatever you prefer. Oh, and look up here, we got another mermaid purse and a really cool little piece of driftwood. Look at this little piece of driftwood here. That's a cool little piece. Here's another piece up here too. I love me some driftwood. And let me check out this mermaid purse. Look how fun. And of course it's hanging on to some seaweed. Get that off of there. Look how cool, you guys. I love mermaid purses. Oh my gosh, I get so excited. Very cool. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this super fun episode on the Virtual Shelling Network. I truly appreciate all of your support, and as I'm walking here in the water, I'm seeing a beautiful, well, we'll see if somebody's home or not. Let's see. Oh, nope, nobody's home. Look at that. Beautiful whelk. Here's a little turbo. See, I can't stop shelling. I can't stop. Somebody stop me. Beautiful turbo. Cute little orange scallop here, just walking in the water on my way back. Thank you guys so much for your support. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or requests, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me directly at virtualshelling@gmail.com, or you can contact me off of our website at virtualshelling.com. Thank you guys again. This is Laura Manson signing off on the Virtual Shelling Network. Wishing you guys all a shell-tastic evening, and I will see you guys again next time.